Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to our live stream today. My name is Jack, and I'll be taking you through some of the new exciting features on Avantis firmware version 1.3 that we released just yesterday. So we've got some questions coming in already. A really important question, which is, does the ampersand ever manage to get right into the corner? I don't believe it does, but we'll keep watching and we'll see. We'll see. I see Samantha's here. Hi, Samantha. Brian's here. Jeff's here. Thanks for joining, everybody. So I'm going to go through some of the main feature set for 1.3. But if you do have any questions about anything, by all means, put them in the chat, and I will do my very, very best to answer them. Next firmware update, I'm sure. Well, thankfully, that ampersand bouncing is not part of our core firmware offering, which does give us a bit of flexibility in terms of release schedule. So we'll see how we do. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever it is you might be. The number's still going up quite quickly, so I'm gonna hang on for a second before I get started. We'll let a few more people wander in. I'll have a little bit of my drink here. Hello, hello, hello. Apologies if you can hear the chair creaking underneath me. Okay, cool. I think we're good. So we're going to have a look at some features. As I said, as everyone was coming in, by all means, if you have any questions at any time, go ahead and put them in the chat, and I will do my best to answer. So 1.3, what are we working with? What are we looking at? So let's see if I can get my console on screen here. So this is a nice close-up shot of my Avantis Solo that I've got here in the studio. And we're going to have a look at our first feature. So our first feature is for our DPAC users, for those users that have purchased the additional upgrade and unlocked DPAC, unlocking the power of DLive on your Avantis. This one is a new addition for people who've already purchased DPAC. There is no additional charge. Once you purchase DPAC, you get all DPAC updates for the life of the product. So this will be already there as soon as you install 1.3 if you are an existing DPAC user. So NEQ12, that's what we're looking at today. This is our 12-band parametric EQ. You find it on the bus. So I'm going to go ahead and choose one of these wedges that I've got here. And when I open up what used to be my GEQ section, you'll see the text at the top has now changed to NEQ. And if I choose my NEQ type here, I've got the GEQs that we've come to know and love. And at the bottom, we've got our new option. This will be familiar to DLive users. This has been on DLive for a little while now. It's a 12-band mix PQ. So this is used instead of your GQ. It goes in the same processing slot, and it gives you 12 separate bands of parametric EQ. This is in addition to the 4 bands that you get anyway on the bus. So it's a total of 16 bands of PQ on all buses. There's no rack. There's no sort of like DSP to worry about. These just come for free on all your buses for you to use as you wish. So you don't have to worry about assigning them. They're right there. You just need to go into your NEQ section and choose NEQ 12 from the list. So let's take a look at the chat. So the iOS app should be up now. It did take a little while before they went through, but it should be up on the website now. I think they're sort of about 45 minutes or something after we did the main release. Some other questions about products. There's some zone products. So I'm the product specialist for Avantis and DLive. So I'm going to concentrate on predominantly on Avantis today, but I'll take some DLive questions if you have them. And for anything else, if you do want to know about any of the rest of our product range, I really recommend getting in contact with our support team. You can send them a message at support@allen-heath.com, or you can go to support.allen-heath.com on the website, or you can send a message to our Facebook page, and it'll all go to the same place. So if you've got any questions about any products that aren't Avantis or DLive, feel free to give us a message that way, and we'll get you an answer from somebody who is a little bit more qualified than I. Cool. Okay. So moving back to the NEQ. So NEQ 12, we've got 12 bands of parametric EQ. The first and the last band can also be swapped for a pass filter. So we can swap to a pass filter. We've got different different slope options there available for you. So that you've got a high pass, and you've also got a low pass filter in addition to all of these individual bands. So what else have we got there? You might have noticed it. You might have noticed it just there, is that we have updated we've updated a number of different things in the back end that have let us bring a feature to Avantis that we've wanted to do for a very long time, and that is the pinch to cue feature. So now if you're in an EQ, you can go ahead and pinch the interface to change the cue, just like you can on the iPad. So that's available on NEQ12, but it's also available on the standard PQs as well. Let's see, I've got some more questions coming in. Gregory's very excited by the low pass and the high pass. Actually, there's quite a few questions here. Let me move back over so I can read them. General question, any future plans for expansion of Avantis? Not currently. Why is NEQ only width to 9th octave? I am not sure. I will find out for you, Carlos. Gregory's very happy with the filters. Someone on LinkedIn says, is the solo firmware the same as dual screen Avantis? Yes, it is. They are the same. They run exactly the same software. You can use show files from one on the other and vice versa. So yeah, they're the same. You just have one screen and 12 faders instead of 2 screens and 24 faders. Someone's asking about crossover filters. We don't currently do crossover filters in the console. But there we go. What else can we say about NEQ12? So these are deep processing models, so there's no additional latency. So this is exactly the same as the compressors and expanders and all that good stuff. So there's no additional latency when you plumb these in. That is all taken care of for you. Does anyone want to ask me any other questions about NEQ12? Because we may consider moving on to something else, unless anyone has any questions. So someone's asking, can the filters on NEQ theoretically replace a crossover? Possibly. So you can certainly do a high and a low pass, and you could do that on each individual bus that you're sending out to a speaker. It's not really the same as a full crossover network, so to speak. But certainly, if your crossover failed, if it's some sort of emergency situation, you could certainly get through the gig like that. So what else we got? So Raphael, hi Raphael, for a start. Thanks for joining. Says NEQ will give you some very decent filters on the top and the lower band. Yes, they will. Gregory's asking what kind of filters they are. I believe they're Butterworth filters. I'm pretty sure. I'd need to check, but I'm pretty sure they're Butterworth filters. Mm-hmm. So another person asking about the width. It's really interesting because that's not something I have had fed back to me before, at least off the top of my head. I'll find out. I don't know what the decision was. I suspect that is it would probably been a trade-off between the number of bands available and how narrow we can make those bands. I imagine if we wanted them all to be very, very, very narrow, we probably wouldn't have been able to do 12. I'm guessing that's what it is. Is the new EQ Alan Heath's own beast or based off a different unit? I think it's your own. So NEQ12 it's exactly the same as NEQ12 that is available on DLive. So it's not like supposed to be an emulation of a specific piece of hardware. It's just a tool. Okay, I think we'll leave NEQ12 there for the moment. We can always come back to it if anyone has any particular questions on it. So what feature we're going to look at next? The next feature we're going to look at is pop-out scenes list. So pop-out scenes list, on DLive, you've got sort of a dedicated screen on the right, or you can have a dedicated view of your scenes. You can see them on the right-hand side of the screen, and you can even get some scene information on the bottom of the screen. That's not available on Avantis, so we've had to come up with another method for showing you your scene information whilst you're mixing, whilst you're working on your console. So what we've got is pop-out scene list. So if I go into my setup menu and I'm going to go into surface preferences, no, I'm not. I'm going to go into custom rotary, and I've got this new button that says pop-out scenes list. You can see it here. It currently says off. That button will give you'll have 2 of those buttons if you're on dual screen, so you'll be able to turn it on independently for the left and independently for the right hand side of the console. If I go ahead and turn it on, and I now press the view button, we've now got a little pop-out list here, which will stay on top of our channels so we can see where we are and which scene is currently selected and which scene is going to be next. So if I was to add a load more scenes, let me just add some pretend scenes here to put in some rubbish data. These are all extremely strangely named songs. Just going to keep adding until I've got a few to play with. And then what I'm going to do now is take this list and I'm going to add some extra buttons so that we can page through them. So if I go to setup and I go to soft keys, I'm going to add sort of a next and a previous. I'm going to do those on my bottom keys on my solo here. So that's going to be 8 and 16. So 8, I'm going to do previous. So I'm going to go to scene controls. I'm going to go to previous, apply. And on 16, I'm going to do next. So I'm going to go to scene controls. I'm going to go to next, go even. I'm going to do auto increment. That means that as we tap through these, you'll see my scene moves and you'll be able to keep an eye on which scene you're currently in, regardless of whether you've got your main scene page open. So your main scene page will obviously take up most of the channels. But this way you can have just a few on the end there being obscured, and you can quickly put it away and bring it back just by touching the view button. And again, on dual screen, that's available on both the left-hand side screen and on the right-hand side screen independently. So you can decide where you want it. Let's see if we've got any questions or anything coming in. So there's a few questions about entire channel library settings. Not currently at the moment, not sort of in the way that you're asking there, unfortunately. It's just per parameter. Are there any other questions that anybody has about scenes list or scenes in general on Avantis? Anything like that? I'll give it a few seconds to work through the delay, the broadcast delay, and see if anyone has any questions for me. So Jumpy said, I've missed this option. This is new. This is new for version 1.3. It's a new feature that we brought out just yesterday. So you haven't missed it. It's not like it's been hiding away. It's brand new for 1.3, and we brought it out just yesterday. So that is scenes list. So this can obviously, as I mentioned, go on the left or the right. It follows your scene changes as you go through your list of scenes. And yeah, the scenes list. So those things where it's not like super cool, but it's definitely very useful. We'll definitely get to AES a bit later if you so wish. But if not, I'm going to move on to our next feature. So our next new feature for 1.3 is our custom rotary effects control. So one of the things that's sort of been missing a little bit from Avantis is the ability to control effects units without having to touch the controls on the screen. So if I go and find, I might have to assign an effects strip for me to play with here. So let's put a strip with an effects unit on. So currently, if we want to make any sort of changes to, why are you not appearing? Any sort of changes to our effect unit here, we have to go and we have to touch the screen, we have to turn the control, etc. But if we wanted to map that to some sort of hardware control, now we can. I'm going to go to setup. I'm going to go to custom rotary again. No, I'm not. I keep getting these the wrong way around. I'm going to go to surface preferences. No, I'm not. I'm going to custom rotary. I'm going to go custom rotary. I'm going to select effects unit. I'm going to choose the number of the effects unit that I want to control. So in this case, I'm going to go for effects unit 1. And you can select any of the sort of main parameters. So let's say that I'm going to have my top control be the decay time. I'm going to have my mid control be the pre-delay. And I'm going to have my bottom control be the HF decay. This means now, no matter where I am on the console, what I'm doing, I could be, doing something to this compressor. Maybe I'm paying an awful lot of attention to this overhead, and I want to change the size of my delay or the delay time. I can just go ahead and grab the decay time on this encoder here. No no matter where I am, no matter what I'm touching, no matter which device I'm looking at. If I bring up the effects unit, you can see as I turn this, you'll see the decay time there. That's the second number is changing. And if I grab the bottom one, for instance, that's the decay. That's the third number is changing. And those are just locked to those controls. I can choose to have them locked to those controls. I could choose to use those controls for something else. And on a dual screen, of course, you'll have 3 controls on the left and 3 controls on the right for you to assign to whatever it is you want to assign them to. That is very simple, which also means it's very quick to explain. So there won't be too much more on effects control unless anyone has any particular exciting questions about effects rotary controls. Do pop them in the chat if you do. Gutian says, will Sennheiser 6000 series be visible in the child strip in the near future? We're always looking at which devices people are using in the field and what we might like to include in the future into RF device support. There's no specific immediate plan to include 6000 series, but it's certainly one of the ones we see requested quite a lot. And I do recommend that anybody who has any sort of feature request, you're welcome to let us know during one of these streams. But it's also really useful if you send them in via the support system, because it means we can talk about them in a bit more detail. And we've also got ways of contacting you if we want to discuss anything a little later down the line. So Sennheiser 6000 series, no immediate plans, but it's certainly one of the things that we've got on our radar to consider for the future. Can the effects control assignments be changed with scenes? So you can absolutely update these rotaries. You can save different configurations in scenes. And you could, for instance, save those scenes to a soft key. So you could have a soft key recalling a scene that does nothing but update these encoders and use some soft keys to toggle what's going on with these encoders. Hopefully that helps, Karen. Seth says, not directly related to your current topic, so answer at your leisure. I shall. Are there any plans to have the I/O patch bay available in the app? Again, no immediate plans, but it's definitely something that's on the long list of things we'd like to bring into the app. It's certainly something we get quite a few requests for. As we, I can definitely see how wandering around on stage, if you're far away from your console, it would be useful to be able to repatch things. So not imminently, but certainly something that's on our long list to look at possibly doing in the future. Okay. So Karen said, can the effects controls be changed with scenes? So let's have a quick look about how we might actually do that. So I've got these currently mapped to effects unit 1, and I'm going to save sort of a utility scene. Okay, so I'm going to go into my scenes list. I'm going to pick one that's out the way of my current list. I'm going to go to 40, I think. I'm going to call this FX1, because these are currently mapped to effects unit 1. So I'm going to store my settings. I'm going to go into my recall filter. And here what I'm going to do is block everything. I'm going to stop everything from recalling when I recall that scene. And I'm going to go in and only enable my soft rotaries. So if I go in and enable them there, it should be right. I have a feeling I might have made a mistake here. I might very well have got this mixed up with DLive. So if I go into scenes, go into recall filter, soft keys, controllers. No, maybe I have made a mistake there. They're not under controllers, are they? Surface, nope. We'll come back to this. I'm just going to style this out. I'm going to style this out and move on to something else. That's my plan. All right. So what else we got? Are there plans to release Mixout also for Android? We're definitely looking. We're definitely keeping an eye on all those sort of requests and all the sort of things that people may want to use our apps on. Again, just like the 6000 series, there's no immediate plan to do a release for Android, but that does not mean it is not on our list of things we'd like to do in the future. So one of the questions I got quite a lot when we did the solo launch video was people worrying about managing large channel lists on a surface with only 12 faders. And I thought it was good to sort of address this and go, well, actually, there's a few different options available to you if you want to manage more channels than you have strips available. So there's two main things you can do. There's two main ways you can approach this problem. Okay, you can recall a strip layout with scenes, which is fine, but by default, that means you have to go through all your other scenes and block the strip layout from recalling, so that every time you do a change, every time you do a scene change, you don't have your entire strip layout changing from underneath your fingers. So one of the things we offer, one of the little tools that are available to you, are DCA spills. So we'll have a look at some of the ways you can use DCA spills to manage your strip layout. So in this show file here, I've got, for instance, a drum DCA, a guitar and keys DCA, and a vocal DCA. And for those who maybe don't know, if you go ahead and press your mix key, a DCA spill will display just the things that are available within that DCA on the screen. So here, for instance, I've got all the things that are in my drum DCA. If I come out of that mix and go to the vocal, I've got my 2 vocal channels that are in my vocal DCA. And if I go to guitar key, I've got the guitars and keys. What's really useful about this is that channels do not have to be elsewhere on the console to be recalled as part of a DCA. So if I was to go into my strip assignment and have a look, at the moment, I think I've got channels up to 48, okay? So channels above 48 are not currently in my strip assign. If I click on my drum, let's go with the vocal DCA. If I go on my vocal DCA and I click routing, what you'll find here is we can assign different things to this DCA that aren't necessarily in the strip layout. So if I go ahead and, for instance, assign some of these channels going up to 55, what we'll find now is when I press the mix key, it will spill these channels, even though these are not elsewhere on my strip assign. One of the other things that often comes up is, well, hang on a second, that's great, but I've only got 11 slots there available. So I've got 1 slot for the DCA master, and then I've got 11 slots here, or strips available to spill things to. Well, that doesn't matter either. If I go back to my routing page, I can go and add loads of stuff. You can see it updating in the background there. So I've got this DCA open already. I can go ahead and add loads and loads and loads of things to that DCA, and I can use my existing layer change keys to tab through the layers within that DCA. So you can have the full 6 layers within every single DCA, which gives you loads of strips available to do whatever it is you want to do. You can also go in and change how the spill is displayed on the surface. Okay, so if I was to fire one of these DCA spills, instead of from the actual DCA master, if I was to do it from a soft key, so I'm going to pick soft keys 9, 10, 11 as a little example here. So I'm going to go into my soft key setup. I'm going to go to 9, and I'm going to set this as the mix key on DCA 1. I'm going to go to 10. I'm going to set this as the mix key on DCA 2. I'm going to 11. I'm going to set this as the mix key, he says, very badly, on DCA 3. And now it's slightly outshot. I can press soft keys 9, 10, and 11, he says, to fire off those DCA spills, all with a complete set of layers available for whatever is contained within that DCA. When I go into my setup page again and go to DCA spills, I can decide how those things are laid out. I can have them laid out in terms of the channel order. I can have them laid out in terms of the strip. So that would be, if in my normal layout, my strip started 10, 11, 12, and I had this set in strip mode, 10, 11, 12 would come up first to the DCA spill as well. You can also force DCA on surface. So if I do press my mix key, say 10 for my second DCA, that's put the DCA master strip back on the surface. And if I turn that off, you'll see the DCA master strip goes away. Again, that's only really useful if you've got so many that it's going through all your channels. So let's say this DCA had exactly 12. It might be that you wouldn't want your master taking up one of those slots. You'd want them all available all the time on your console. All right, I'm going to move back to the chat and have a little look, see what else we've got. DCA on soft key is a great alternative on the solo model. Absolutely, that's one of the reasons they're there. They are very much there for you to use and for you to be able to customize your interface however it is you like to make life easy for you. So one of the other differences you'll notice, so 1.3 is the first release for Avantis Solo. So we've had to make a few little changes here and there that you'll notice whether you're using solo or dual screen now, just because of those, just because we've had to be able to support both surfaces. So for a start, if you're not a DLive user, you won't be familiar with this. If I load one of the new template shows from 1.3, I'm going to go ahead and recall this. Give it a moment. You'll see now, instead of going straight into your show, you'll be met with these 4 DCAs that say recall, strip, assign, scene. And what this does, and again, this will be very familiar to DLive users, when you go ahead and go into scenes, you'll go to the top, if you're not already, and just choose your surface size. So because Avantis shows can be used on either a solo or a dual screen Avantis, then we've done the same with our template shows. There's no need for us to make a stack of different shows for you to choose from. You choose the template show that most fits the show that you're doing, whether that's front of house or monitors, and then go ahead and choose the size of your console in the scenes list. So there's a couple of other places where you'll see little differences like this. So I'm going to try and go over to, let's see if this works. Apologies for that. Let's try that. There we go. That's my bad. I thought I could get rid of my screen without getting rid of my audio as well. So hopefully that'll come back very, very shortly. And you should be able to see my screen and hear me talking. So on the new version of Director, so this is Director for 1.3, we've got this run offline area at the bottom with Avantis and Avantis Solo. So if I click Avantis, this is our dual screen Avantis that we know and love. And I'm just going to load a show. Give that a moment. Yes, to be very clear, the audio did not cut out. I pressed the wrong button. That was very much my fault. So here we go. We've got Director up. And we can see at the top left here, we've got these 2 buttons. So on dual screen Avantis, we can choose between screen 1 and screen 2. And it's unfortunately been cropped off a little bit by our streaming platform. But at the bottom, we've got all of our soft keys. Oh, actually, I suppose you can see 20, 21, 22 there, available for use with Avantis dual screen, as it has 4 soft keys available. If I disconnect now from this Avantis, from this offline session, I'll give that a moment. We'll go to solo. You'll see that this will now be configured for our Avantis Solo. So we'll give it a second to open up. And we'll see a few differences. So for a start, we've lost our control at the top here. So you're just running on the one screen, and it won't let you assign things to the soft keys that don't exist. So we've tried to just make it a little bit easier. And it's the same when we go into the I.O. page. Different I.O. endpoints that don't exist on Solo are not available. So for instance, Avantis Solo has got 6 analog outs on the back, whereas the dual screen Avantis has more than 6. I think it's 10, 8 or 10. Can't remember. There we go. One of those days. Does anyone have any questions about 1.3 or solo or something like that I could help with potentially? Oh, there is a question here. In the future, is it possible to store the soft keys as a function in the app on separate layout? I do not understand that question. But if you'd like to rephrase it in a different way, I'd be more than happy to try and answer it for you. Let's see. Let's come out of that for a second, and we'll put the Avantis back on the screen. I think that's better. In fact, I'll load my template show up with some channels on. So screen demo. There we go. We'll get that up on the screen. Peter says gain tracking. So gain tracking is something that's currently available only between DLive mix racks. So we do some gain tracking available on DLive mix racks, and there's also a workaround to do a bit of gain tracking when using the DT boxes. There's no immediate plan to bring gain tracking outside of those products. I'm not entirely sure from a technical level how easy it would be to do with some of our desks, but it's definitely something that if enough people were interested, we would consider, at the very least, investigating. Steven says, is the ability with PQ or any queue to add an HPF down to 125 on a mix, e.g. for processing on subs? That's a very good question. Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and open up I need to find a bus to work with. So let's bring a bus in. So I've got a group in this case. And I'm going to go ahead and activate my NEQ12. And let's put you in pass mode. So I'm not entirely sure. So I've got that going down to sort of 27. That's going all the way down to 20 hertz, which will be the 3 dB point. Is that what you're asking? Oh no, you want do you want a low pass? I think you've put high pass, but do you want a low pass? Is that what you're asking? I think it probably is. So if I go ahead and put in, this is a low pass and bring you all the way down, it comes down to 20 hertz. So hopefully that helps. You can certainly set a high and a low pass down to 20 hertz on NEQ. Chris is following up on Avantis for You app. So I'm going to take a guess at what that's about. So SQ for You and Q for You are apps that are available for people to mix their own monitors, but they're available for iPhone essentially, instead of just being available for iPad, like the Avantis and the DLive ones are. I don't know if there was a specific question, but it's definitely something that we're really interested in doing. But I don't know. I don't have like an ETA or anything like that. But it's definitely something that we are very interested in doing in the future. Stephen Palmer says, OS, I meant LPF, cool. Does that work the same on PEQ? Let's find out. Let's find out together, because I don't know. I have a sneaking suspicion this doesn't go all the way down. But apparently it does. There we go. Apparently it does. On board, do you have information directly of the function of the soft keys? With example, you can change it with a C. Yes, you can change soft key functions with a C if you want to. So these are by default set up so that you can... what's the phrase here? By default, they are in the global safes. So if I was to go into my scenes page, for instance, and go into global safes, which are up here at the top, and you can see that they are blocked by default. So if you want a scene to make changes to a soft key, you have to go into your global safe and unsafe from the global safe. There's lots of videos I've done online already about how the scene system works, but like very, very briefly, like in an extremely quick overview, is that there are safes available on a global level that affect all scenes, and there are also recall filters available on a scene basis. And you've got to have the recall filter unblocked, and you have to have the global safe unsafe for whatever feature it is that you want to update. I think Keith likes to say quite correctly that it's like bits of Swiss cheese, and there has to be a hole all the way through for whatever feature it is. And by feature, I might mean, let's go with the filters on the kick channel. So you've got to be unsafe in the global safe, and you've got to be not filtered in the recall filter for that to change on a scene update. Hopefully that helps. I'm really sorry. I don't quite understand what you mean by the information directly. You can store your soft keys in a scene, and you can recall those soft keys, as in, what function they're set to in a scene if the filters are off. There are no current plans to allow power cycling from external control. We think it's quite dangerous to give people the ability to turn your console off remotely. So it's not really something that we do or have plans to do, as far as I'm aware. Quite the opposite. In fact, when it's been discussed in the past, we've had lots of requests specifically not to enable that functionality. Well, thank you all for joining me. We've gone through the features available in 1.3 Avantis. I will hang out a little bit longer just in case there's any last minute questions that come in, and I'd be more than happy to try and answer them. But we might start thinking about bringing this conversation towards a close. Being asked, are there any plans for a DLive Avantis show file converter? It's certainly something that's being researched. I wouldn't like to commit to it definitely happening. However, it's definitely something we're looking into. Mathayo says, I'm having problems with calibrating my faders. During the show, my hands sweat and it no longer works properly and I have to calibrate every 10 minutes. That's definitely not normal. And I would say at that point, there was probably something wrong on a hardware level. And I would recommend that you got in touch with your local distributor, sales team, dealer, whoever you purchased it from, and have a chat with them, because that's definitely not something that I would expect one of our products to do. Raphael's noticed a sign for mute groups and DCAs in the routing page. Yes, I'll show everyone that since you brought it up. But it's one of the smaller updates, but it's definitely useful. So what we can do now, if I was to go to let's go to routing on my input channel, you can go ahead and see which DCAs or which mute groups individual channels are in, just from the routing page. So you can go ahead and touch routing, select the channel, and you can go ahead and add it to DCAs or add it to mute groups or remove from mute groups, and even see like the names of those groups, etc., right from the routing page. So yeah, not something that's necessarily top of the marketing list, but certainly a very useful little feature. Gregory says, when will the Avantis Telo be available in France? I can't imagine that it's not available now. If you believe it's not available, I would recommend getting in contact with Algam. So Algam are our French distributor, and having a chat and see if they can organize you a demo or tell you where you might be able to purchase them. Gareth, who I think I met at Plaza this year, maybe last year, says, can we get some more info on the pro consumer modes? You did answer this question for me on Facebook. Was there something specific on Facebook? Was there something left from the Facebook answer that you need any further assistance with? So essentially, we've made an update so that certain AES devices, so off the top of my head, this is AES cards that go in a DX32 and AES cards that go in an IO port slot. You're able to change the mode of the AES. You're able to change the mode of the AES from professional to consumer. This is because certain devices insist on being one or the other. Someone is making an awful lot of noise outside our studio, and if one of my colleagues is listening, if they could pop down, as I have a sneaking suspicion some of the R&D team are moving boxes around, and I'd appreciate it if they could not. That would be great. So let's see, what else have we got? So AES, yeah. So I got distracted there. Sorry. So the AES situation is that AES3, which is the sort of AES that we use in Pro Audio, it has like a header packet. It's like a little frame of data that tells the computer or whatever it is on the other end what kind of information to expect. So this will include stuff like the sample rate, it will include the bit depth and all these things. And there's also a little bit that tells it whether this is like a SPDIF, that's like the RCA type connector, or whether this is professional AES3 balanced sort of information they're getting. So the data packets are slightly different, but generally they're quite sort of similar. Most pro audio equipment, so these will be things like amps and sort of microphones and things like that, they don't really care. They'll work in either mode. But there are certain industries, particularly in broadcast, where it's important for the mode to be set correctly. And devices will ignore audio if the bit isn't whatever it's expecting. So we're just giving people the option to be able to force it to be consumer or professional. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful. I recognize that was a bit rambly. Could you show the peak hold reset? I'll definitely have a look in a moment. I've already done the scenes pop-up, so if you want to reverse back in the video a little bit, the scenes pop-up was the second thing I did. So you want to go to about 17 minutes in, and you'll be able to see me demonstrating the scene pop-up. I'm over delivery. Algam has not yet got Solo ready for delivery at the moment, maybe December. So in terms of shipping and things like that, they will be best placed to advise. There's so much that goes into shipping and supplying product internationally that I wouldn't like to guess on individual countries and what their available shipping is, and how many units they have and how long it takes, because it's a little bit too difficult for me to know all the different countries. So, but I'm sure someone from Algam, if you want to get in contact with them, will be more than happy to give you that information. It sounds like they already have that information. Will be better than any information that I have, unfortunately. Cool. It could very well be that they've got units coming in that are already sold. So I'd recommend trying to make sure that you're on a list if there is a list. We see that quite a lot where people go, I can't find anything in stock. And we go, oh, well, make sure you get on that back order list. And then they don't. And then their delivery date gets further and further away. Brett says, what models of Sennheiser wireless connect with Avantis? So this will be G3 and G4 300 and 500 series. I'm pretty sure that's all of the G3 and G4 that have an Ethernet port on them, but certainly the 300 and 500 series of G3 and G4. Then all of the 2000 series and all of the 2050 series are the ones that are currently supported. Those are the Sennheiser RF devices that are currently supported by Avantis. Avantis also supports a number of Shure devices, which are SLXD, and Axient. Definitely Axient. Well, hopefully that was helpful. If anyone has any other questions after the end of this stream, they're more than welcome to post them to our support team. As I've mentioned a few times now during the stream, you can get hold of our support team by going to support.alan-heath.com, and there's a web portal, or you can send us an email to support@alan-heath.com, or indeed, if you message our Facebook page, it all comes through to the same place. If you ask a D-Live or Avantis question, there's a very good chance it will be me replying anyway, but if not, it'll be one of the rest of the team. They're all very good. Most of them are much better than I am. And able to answer all of your complicated questions, particularly if something's not right, get in contact with us and we'll try our best to make it right. If something is confusing, we'll do our best to clear you of any confusion. And if you want the product to do something it doesn't currently, please let us know. Cool. All right. On that note, thank you very so much for joining. I'm sure we'll be doing another one of these again in no time at all. I believe some of my colleagues have got some AHM sessions planned quite soon. They'll be available on the sessions page of our website. If you go on our website, I think it's resources sessions or community sessions, something like that. You'll find a list of events coming up, or just keep an eye on whatever platform it is you're watching on today, whether that's YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. You'll see streams and things added there as time goes on. All right. Thanks ever so much. Keep safe. And I'm sure we'll see each other again.